Hey folks, it's your old pal Fromark here once again with the Fromark Plays show once again, and this time around I'm not recording just any old Sonic game, I'm recording Tails Skypatrol. Originally released in 1995 on the Sega Game Gear, however it would only be released in Japan at that time, and we would get it over here in, I think, 2005 on the Sonic Gems collection. They spelled program wrong, it's not program. Anyways, let's get right on to it. This is Tails Skypatrol on the Sega Game Gear, and it's a fairly short adventure to get through, as I will only play one part, or this will only be a one-part video, I mean. And depending on how good you are at this game, it doesn't take very long to get through. But there are several things to keep in mind. There's little candies that you collect there. You want to keep getting those, as those keep you from running out of gas on your flight meter up in the top left. And those candies are mint candies, technically, which is Tails' favorite food. But anyways, the goal here is you are Tails, and you fly through each area. Those bells are little checkpoints, which is kind of neat. Sometimes they come in handy, sometimes they don't. One thing to keep in mind with this game, though, is that the floor is lava and anything and everything will try to kill you. And that this game is kind of in a similar vein to a space shoot-'em-up kind of style game. Only you're Tails and you're flying around. You can use that ring to be your attack. Oh, and you get those things which are temporary invincibilities, but they're kind of pointless because they're really short and they always show up at the most inconvenient times. But that's the end of the training area, and because this game is really short, that's one of the 5 levels in this game. So we're going to go ahead and move on from the training area, which actually looks pretty similar to Emerald Hill. Rail Canyon? I didn't know I was playing Sonic Heroes. I'd rather be playing Sonic Heroes, to be honest. This game was a headache to record. I only say that just because of the last level in this game. That was a real pain, but we're not quite there yet, folks. But yeah, the objective here is pretty simple. You just fly through each level and shoot a bunch of stuff with your ring and try not to get hit and try not to hit the floor or the ceiling or walls. Now, fun fact about this game, it had many different lives before it started, or before it became Tails Skypatrol, I mean. As there's reason to believe that this started off as some kind of Disney game. And I was also reading up before I started this recording that apparently this game was meant to be produced for a Sega system that never came to be. I assume it was what eventually became the Game Gear. Which I really don't understand why this game didn't make it to the States at the time. It's kind of like with Sonic Drift 1, which is even weirder because we got Sonic Drift 2 over here in the States, but we never got 1. Or at least until Gems Collection came along. Or Mega Collection Plus. But this is actually one of 2 games where Tails is the star character. In a previous Let's Play I recorded, I did a Knuckles Chaotix Let's Play, which is Knuckles' only game. Tails got 2 games for the Game Gear, the other one being Tails Adventure, or Tails Adventures, whichever one you prefer. Which I have not played that one very much, so that's going to be a little bit tougher to record. This one wasn't so bad once I got everything memorized. But I mean, it was still a bit of a chore to get through, and I think I still died at 1 or 2 points in the playthrough. But I recorded this back in February, which was like almost 3 months ago at the time of recording this, so I don't remember much about my playthrough other than it was just a headache to record and that I practiced a lot before I decided to try to record it. Anyways, this is the first boss in the game. I wish I knew the name right off the top of my head, and I wish I had some notes open, but I don't. And we go ahead and knock him out pretty quickly. You just keep throwing your ring at him, and eventually he'll just get yeeted. But anyways, that's the end of the Rail Canyon area, which is all fine and good with me. And we'll go ahead and move on to the Ruinwood area, which this is where I start to lose my patience with the game, to be honest. You don't see it in the recording, of course, but behind the scenes, when I was recording this was a mess. And it was mostly just because some of these sections, you gotta really gotta pay attention to what you're doing. A lot of stuff can sneak up on you when you're not expecting it. But I guess that's kind of the case with most of these kind of 2D shooter style games. Which I love a good 2D shoot 'em up. Especially the space shooters like the ones on the Sega Saturn, like Galactic Attack and Darius Gaiden and Cotton 2 and stuff like that. That's all fine and good with me. This one though, since it's got the Sonic branding attached to it, I feel like I'm a little bit harsher toward it. And it also doesn't help that it's fairly short, but at the same time it's kind of annoying in places. Now the weird thing about this Ruinwood area, it starts off as a cave, and then it eventually becomes like a forest, which makes sense, I guess. Now this is the section you really want to look out for. This becomes a problem in one of the later levels, as you'll see. But you want to make sure that you're not in the wrong place at the wrong time when these blocks decide that they're just going to spawn in your way. Oh yeah, I'm definitely getting that checkpoint. But yeah, if I don't collect enough mint candy, I run out of gas in that top meter and I die. But I've made it to the forest part of the Ruinwood area, where everything just kind of changes, and it's like the level's pretty much split into two separate sections. It feels like a completely different level than the first half. But no need to worry, folks, because I wouldn't record it if I didn't feel like I could get through here. You gotta watch out for those things too, as they can kind of weigh you down. I don't know the proper names of them. I don't really know the proper names of any of these enemies other than the main antagonist, which is Wendy Witchcart. And all I know is she means business and that she's a bad character and that it's up to you as Tails to stop her. You gotta stop that old Wendy Witchcart. Ha! Oh yeah, if you hit those yellow blocks, it'll make all those other little blocks disappear. Now, I gotta say, folks, my first experiences with this game, you gotta look out for them bones, them diggity bones. But my first experiences with this game were, in fact, through the Sonic Gems collection. And I remember playing it a little bit and giving up pretty quickly and not coming back to this until I decided to record a Let's Play, because I just couldn't get into this one. It's like with Tails Adventure, I couldn't really get into that one too much either, but a lot of people say it's good, so I'm willing to give it another chance. But just like the previous boss, you just gotta hit the crap out of him with the ring, and that'll do it. And that will be the end of Ruinwood area. Oh no, I had the cursed 666 number there for a second. But now it's not cursed anymore, because now I have 766. Now let's move on to this level that kind of looks like Sky Chase Zone in my opinion. I feel like it draws a lot of inspiration from Sky Chase and Wing Fortress. Definitely want to look out for those boids. Those boids will get in your way if not careful. Definitely collect that mint candy. That lucky Denver mint. That Jimmy Eat World reference. But yeah, this is one you can kind of just blaze through. This is actually fairly easy for being the next to last level in the game. Which I know it's kind of crazy for me to say. This is already pretty close to the end of the game. But a lot of those Game Gear Sonic titles just don't go on for very long, so hoping to make my way through the rest of them and record them on the channel. I'd say the longest one is Tails Adventure, and that's probably part of the reason why I don't play it much. Like I said, everybody I hear say it's good, I've only played like maybe 20 minutes of it at best, and I just couldn't get into it. But maybe a few years' time has changed my opinion. It is the next Sonic game I do believe it's the next Sonic game I'm gonna have to record. I'll have to check that list. It's either this, Sonic... Oh wait, no, okay, the next one's Sonic Labyrinth. Which actually, I know a lot of people hate Sonic Labyrinth, but it's not that bad of a game. I certainly like it. It's pretty much Sonic 3D Blast before Sonic 3D Blast. Oh yeah, that was kind of a close one. Like I said, if you hit just about anything, you're gonna get killed. It's really easy to die in this game, unfortunately. But I guess it doesn't really matter too much if the game's so quick to get through. As I'm looking at the timer now, I've got less than 10 minutes. But this level's pretty neat though, I gotta say. Definitely get the triple mint candy, this invincibility, and the checkpoint. The invincibility that doesn't really do anything. Because as I mentioned, sometimes I just put those in really odd places. I gotta say, like most any Sonic games, the music here is pretty good. And I do not know how I did not run into the wall and lose a life there, but I'm not gonna complain. I'm not here to complain. Some things in this game are tricky business, and I just try to be as careful as possible when I'm playing this one. Oh, but hey, would you look at that? It's the next boss. There's a boss at the end of each level except for the training area. This is one that's on the box art. I can't remember her name. I just know that she is a rabbit. She shows up on the box art, and that she's in the opening cutscene. And that she is no more because this level is over with, folks. Metal Island is complete, which I almost called Sky Road at the beginning because I completely lost attention to the screen when the level showed up. Or at least when it first showed up, I mean. Man, I'm just in shambles for this playthrough. Anyways, this is Dark Castle, which is not really anything special. The background looks like Casino Night Zone, which I've heard said plenty of times, but it's not wrong. It literally looks like they just stole the assets from Casino Night and Sonic 2. I would say for most beginners, this is the level you're gonna have the biggest problem with, because there's just so much crap to avoid. You're constantly gotta fly out of the way of miscellanea. And then you also gotta make sure you look out for them blocks that will just appear, as you will see plenty of. And this is the section where the headaches began for me when it came to practicing this Let's Play. Because of these stupid phasing blocks, because for me it's just really hard to time these things just right, you see. In fact, I do die in this level at one point. I do remember that in the recording, but I don't know where. But at least it's not in that section, because I really don't want to have to do that again. But it could happen. I don't know, I'm not really a fan of this level, and I gotta say, as far as this game goes, not the biggest fan. It's something I will definitely play, but it's not something I always enjoy coming back to. Like I said, whenever I first played it on the Gems collection, it was a long time before I played it again. I'm sure I played it a couple of times before I did this Let's Play, but it's just not one of those ones that I'm clamoring to come back to. But since a lot of people say good things about Tails Adventures, I'll give it another chance, and eventually I'll have to record it on the channel, especially if I'm going to do more Sonic-related videos over here. As I think that's going to pretty much become the bread and butter of doing Let's Plays over here on the channel. I want to do all the Sonic games. Because, I mean, I am a huge Sonic fan, and as far as video games go, that is my favorite franchise. And I'm actually kind of glad I get to do this Tails game, because I get to show Tails a little bit of love, because he is my favorite Sonic character. Always has been. But I don't know, I've always liked the sidekick more than the main character, I guess. It's kind of like the villain. Sometimes I tend to root for the villain more than I do the hero. Oh, hey, I was kind of wondering what happened there for a second, but... yeah, I must have had one of them stupid little deaths, so I had to come back to the checkpoint. But no need to worry, folks, as the power of editing is on my side this time. This must have been what got me, those little phasing platform yellow things there, the walls. As you never really know when they're gonna cooperate. Just gotta be careful not to get hit. But hey, looks like that is Wendy Bitchcart herself. I'll go ahead and just hit her a bunch of times. Try not to get hit myself too many times. And believe it or not, folks, this is the final boss of the game. Which is kind of hard to believe because, I mean, we got through here pretty quick, didn't we, folks? But I can't say much because, I mean, I'm glad to get through this adventure just about as quickly as it started. But just like with all the previous bosses, you just gotta chase her down and hit her a few times, and eventually the day will be saved. I wish I knew the specific number of times that you gotta hit the enemies, but I do not. So I don't have very much useful information to share with you throughout this playthrough. But for those of you tuning in, thanks. I'm glad you tuned in to watch me play this Tails game here. And get through the rest of this Dark Castle Casino night-like area. And that's gonna do it for Wendy Witchcart, folks. And believe it or not, that's gonna do it for Tails Skypatrol. A pretty quick game to get through, if I do say so myself. So really, I guess if you want something quick to play through that only kills maybe less than a half hour, which even on a bad day, I'd say you'd probably only spend about a half hour to 45 minutes on this, unless you want to get real good at it. But hey, let's let them credits roll where those credits are due, shall we? Of course, the character designed by Sega, which I do believe this Tails sprite is probably from one of the previous Sonic Game Gear titles. But no need to worry with any of that. Graphic Mount Emerald. Graphic Show. I like how in these Game Gear games, they don't really have a proper credits sequence. They just have random nicknames. Some of which I can't properly pronounce. Programming AT&T. AT&T? I hate AT&T. They give me really crappy phone service. At least where I live. Boom! Thanks to Monty. Monty Burns? C. Montgomery Burns? Anyways, Mr. Rental. I like that name. I am Mr. Rental! Fine Twig. Sims, all staff. I went to school with a guy's last name was Sims. I often thought about those games, The Sims. I never made that joke to him though, because he probably would have beat me up, but anyways, that's the end, folks. Which I know we got through this pretty quickly, but this is Fromark, and I will see you in the next game. Thank you for tuning in.